Well, good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so thankful to have you with us and that you've taken the time to join us this evening for what I'm sure is going to be such an inspiring time together. We have been looking forward to this event for some time now, so we're so happy to have you with us. My name is Logan Bloom. I am the prayer team leader for City Church Network, and our goal this evening is to engage with our key partners, just like you, and share some exciting news about a new initiative that will impact families and strengthen our communities here in Central Arkansas. And tonight, we have a great lineup of respected leaders from our state, our city, our schools, and from the City Church Network who are going to be with us tonight. We have Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, the Mayor of Little Rock, Frank Scott Jr., Superintendent of the Little Rock School District, Mike Poore, Principal at Meadowcliff Elementary School, Cynthia Collins. And you'll hear from several other individuals who've experienced firsthand the amazing results that come from our church-school partnerships that we're going to talk about tonight. And we want to hear from you. So as we get started and go through this event together, please feel free to type in the comments and interact with us in the chat. We're going to be hosting a question and answer portion later on this evening. And so we would love to get your questions as we're going through tonight. Please feel free to type your questions as they come to your mind into the chat, and then we will cover as many as possible and hopefully follow up on all of them tonight. So again, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to go ahead and just get started. But at the end of tonight, you'll have an opportunity to lock arms with the City Church Network and help us to boldly move forward with the funding to implement the launch of Vital Families in Schools, which you'll hear about in the next few minutes. But first, let's take a quick look at the mission of City Church Network and its influence throughout Central Arkansas.
Once ranked a top 10 place to raise a family, a 2018 Gallup ShareCare report on community well-being ranks Central Arkansas in the bottom 20% of U.S. cities. We are all affected by the increasing pain and brokenness in our cities, and many are disillusioned with fragmented and ineffective efforts that fail to bring significant transformation. But it doesn't have to be that way. City Church Network is a relational network of Christ followers seeking to unite churches in the way of Christ through extraordinary prayer, trained leaders, and collective impact for the well-being of our cities. A 2019 Barna survey shows that churches working together is one of the top ways to make the gospel more beautiful and believable.
Prayer has been foundational to City Church Network from the very beginning. Pastors and ministry leaders have been taking advantage of opportunities to strengthen prayer in their church with the momentum of citywide prayer movements like One Voice, or covering Arkansas in 24/7 prayer with Arkansas Prays, and being refreshed at the annual Arkansas Prayer Summit.
Research continues to confirm that family brokenness, education, and racial inequality are big issues facing our cities. City Church Network is seeking to unite churches in initiatives informed by research, empowered by the Holy Spirit, and focused for greater impact. Through Race Under Grace, pastors and leaders are being trained and are leading their congregations through a biblically based journey to embrace the beauty of racial unity. The Vital Families Initiative seeks to empower churches to strengthen families in churches, in schools, and in life's rebuilding places.
We also build capacity by providing trained leaders. We believe strong churches are essential for healthy communities, and strong leaders are essential for strong churches. The City Church Network's Antioch initiative includes the Antioch School, Build Institute, and hosting the Global Leadership Summit. Through the Antioch School and the Build Institute, we provide proven, church-based, innovative theological training for leaders. The competency-based approach to biblical education prepares leaders for their specific roles both as individuals and within the church community. From fully accredited bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree options to informal training of grassroots leaders in congregations, the Antioch Initiative supports church leaders across the spectrum.
When we come together through extraordinary prayer as trained leaders and with collective impact, we can bring significant transformation in the areas of our community's greatest needs. On the night before his crucifixion, so that we might have eternal life, Jesus prayed for us. He prayed that we, as his Christ followers, would be one, as he and the Father are one, so that the world would believe in him.
There are so many great movements happening in City Church Network right now, and I'm so thankful for the team that the Lord has really brought together in this season. And so to talk a little bit more about this, I want to invite in Ray Williams, the founder of City Church Network. And I know very few people who have been so dedicated to serving Central Arkansas, not just over months or years, but over decades, from the very beginning of City Church Network. More than 20 years ago, Ray has been a key connector and pillar of our community. So Ray, this is an exciting evening as we kick off a brand new initiative with church school partnerships.
It really is. And I'm personally excited about gathering virtually tonight with supporters of City Church Network to talk about how we can work together to impact our community in even greater ways.
That's right. And before we get into the specifics of our new initiative, would you just take a moment to share with our viewers more about City Church Network and your heart behind how God has used it to influence Central Arkansas in ministry for the last 20 years?
I'd love to do that. First, though, I want to take just a moment and thank everyone for joining us tonight and for the support that many of you have given over the years. None of this would be possible without you. Well, in 1996, I was invited to participate in a season of fasting and prayer. And during that time, there was a moment when I knew God was speaking. And the message he gave was that he wanted to unite churches in our city, and he wanted me to serve him in that purpose. Well, over the next few months, I began to meet other pastors whose hearts were being stirred in similar ways. And in January of 1998, 31 pastors from 20 churches and 10 different denominational streams got on a bus together, and we traveled to Ozark Conference Center for a 4-day prayer summit with no agenda other than to seek God. And as pastors, as we cried out to God, he transformed hearts and relationships, and that laid the foundation for what has become a 22-year sustained movement of extraordinary prayer. Now, in the months that followed the summit, a small team selected by the larger summit group continued to meet. And as we sought to discern what God would have us do next, we began to come to grips with a painful reality. Although many churches were doing good things, it seemed like we were having less and less impact. It was as if the church was invisible or irrelevant. And then out of that recognition, we ask a question. What if churches would unite together in a way that made our efforts more visible and that would have greater impact? So in the next year, 100 churches united together in an annual weekend of service called ShareFest. Jesus' words in Matthew 5:16, "Let your light shine before men in such a way that they see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven," became a reality. Mayor Jim Daly of Little Rock and Mayor Patrick Hayes of North Little Rock provided a joint statement where they said, in our many years of serving our respective communities, we can think of no single effort that even approaches ShareFest in impact on our two cities. After 10 years of ShareFest in 2009, then more than 250 churches and organizations united for Central Arkansas City Fest. And during City Fest, more than 5,000 volunteers served in the season of service. And on the last night of the festival, 35,000 people gathered for the largest multiple denominational, multi-ethnic worship service in Arkansas history. Hundreds received Christ when the gospel was proclaimed. In the last 10 years, the network has continued to encourage churches to work together in areas of community-wide need, such as foster care, and the launch of Our Kids Read, that in 2018, in that school year, provided more than 400 tutors serving nearly 1,000 students. Now, we've learned in these 20 years from our experience and research that K-12 education and racial disparity continue to be two of the major issues facing our community. We also know that families play a vital role in determining positive outcomes for their children. That's why we're excited tonight about sharing with you our new Vital Families in Schools initiative. Now, while the planning for this specific initiative began more than a year ago, the challenges both families and schools are facing in the midst of the COVID pandemic make it even more urgent and more essential now. Every sector of our community has a key role, including business, education, and government, and we are deeply grateful for the support of key leaders in both the state of Arkansas and the city of Little Rock. Our governor has been a partner to the faith community, and we are thankful for his leadership during the COVID pandemic. To provide his insights on our current environment in the work of City Church Network, here's Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Hi, I'm Governor Asa Hutchinson. Many families are enduring hardship as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. Parents have lost jobs and suffered financial setbacks. We closed schools, which has added to stress in some homes. The leaders of the City Church Network recognize the needs in our community and are seeking to encourage and strengthen families through Vital Families in Schools. These church-school partnerships can help families during challenging times. We want our families to flourish, and I'm grateful that City Church Network is willing to stand in the gap for our families.
We're so thankful to have been able to work alongside and have the support of our Governor Asa Hutchinson in his office for many years. And Ray, from our state leader now to our city leader, our mayor here in Little Rock is another supporter of City Church Network.
He has a vision to unite Little Rock. And as an associate pastor, he's partnered with us in One Voice. So to give his perspective on our city, our schools, and this new initiative, here's Mayor Frank Scott Jr.
Well, good evening. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Ray for that very warm and generous introduction. We're here today for many good reasons, but for a unifying reason. My internal why when we were elected back in 2018 was to do all that I can to unite the city of Little Rock, moving us from being disconnected to connected. With City Church Network and Ray and Logan and many others, they have that same internal why. And so many times we have to move from thought to policies and action. And I want to take this time now to share my appreciation to City Church Network because they've moved from that internal why of uniting our city together through policies and through this very specific and targeted action. No one could have thought on January 1st, 2020, that this time now we would be experiencing what we're experiencing. But in times of need, as we understand, if you are a faith believer, the question is often asked, when I was sick, did you care for me? When I was in prison, did you come see me? When I was thirsty, did you quench that thirst? And so right now here in the city of Little Rock and the Central Arkansas region, we know that we have many families who need to be restored in the midst of the pandemic. And that's what the City Church Network is doing with Vital Families in Schools. And so we commend the City Church Network for embodying the Unite Little Rock and Unite Central Arkansas mindset through action. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Mayor Scott. We so appreciate your partnership with us as we kick off Vital Families in Schools. So as we dive deeper into some of the specifics about this initiative, I just want to remind you to interact with us in the chat. Remember, as we go through this, if you have questions, submit them to the chat, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can in the question and answer time. And so as we move forward, I'm going to bring in Mary Carol Peterson, the woman she's heading up the initiative, who's recently joined City Church Network with her to bring her great experience to oversee the success of Vital Families in schools. This is such a timely initiative right now with some of the urgency around the reopening of schools. But there are very, very few people who I know who can so grab onto a need in the community and wrestle it right to the ground. That is Mary Carol's resume. Her work with the Call in Arkansas transformed the foster care situation in our state. And now she's here to tackle another great need with Vital Families in schools. So Mary Carol, thank you so much for being here with us. Could you please just share with us how God led you to join the team and launch this initiative?
Well, thanks so much, Logan, for letting me speak a little bit. Good evening to everyone. God really got my attention first, burdened my heart about the prevalent violence in our community. Little Rock continues to be ranked among the top most violent cities in our country. God hates violence because it's an act against his most precious creation, mankind. And research shows that violence is often a result of feelings of hopelessness and a lack of positive opportunities. So, as I began to research the most effective ways to impact violence in a community, one of the continuing themes was that of the power of student mentoring and coming alongside families in crisis. And I knew from my work with the Call that there are so many wonderful churches in our community that when they join together, significant change happens. And so I knew City Church Network, of course, has a rich history of bringing churches together for the good of the community. And so it was a great fit. And I was thankful to be able to join the leadership team and work on launching Vital Families in schools.
Well, and we are so glad to have you on the team. So tell us more of the specifics about Vital Families in schools.
Sure. So this initiative seeks to transform our community through uniting and mobilizing churches to partner with schools and strengthen families. There was a summit of church and program leaders just last month. We got together to talk through what does it look like for a church-school partnership to best meet the needs of students and families. And I tell you, it was incredibly exciting to be in a room with so many churches from the area as we prayed and really planned how can we best work together for change. And, the focus is right now is expanding the number of church school partnerships because that is going to allow churches to be most responsive to the ever evolving needs that are involved with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so churches will be on the front lines meeting those needs, which is exciting. But, we need funding in order to be able to launch that initiative in an effective way. And so that's where the viewers come in. But we know as those church and school partnerships launch, that's really ultimately going to cause our community to thrive. We've been very thankful for the support of the Little Rock School District Superintendent, Mike Poore. We've been able to meet with Superintendent Poore and other leaders from LRSD in the past few months, and just really wanted to listen to them to hear about the needs of schools, students, and families, and how we can best work together. And so I'm thankful that Superintendent Poore is joining us this evening, and he's going to share his thoughts about Vital Families in schools.
Good evening. Welcome to all of you, and I'm so grateful for the time and energy and commitment that you're putting into this evening with the City Church Network. This is very important to our community. It's very important to the Little Rock School District, and I can guarantee it'll be really important for the young people that reside within our community and go to the Little Rock schools. This has been an unbelievable span of time, and everyone always says, well, what's it like to be a superintendent? But you know what? What's it like to be a parent right now? What's it like to be a kid? What's it like to be a teacher? What's it like to be a part of a ministry? What's it like to be a part of a community organization and think through these things? And every single one of those roles, every individual that's a stakeholder within our community right now are challenged in ways that we've never thought of. But one of the amazing things, and this seems like such a gift from God to have all of you talking right now and thinking about what we can go do to wrap around the young people in this community. I give a tremendous amount of credit to Pastor Williams and Ms. Peterson for their efforts to create this City Church Network and creating an opportunity to have mentorship go towards our schools. Mentorship is just, there's no way to really create a specific value to it. And the word invaluable, as strong a word as that is, it's actually not strong enough for what it means. We're already seeing this happen in certain spots of our community where mentorship is strong. But we need this really for every child in our community. And what better way to accomplish that than to go towards faith-based organizations to support the children of this community. So I want to thank you again for your time and energy and commitment. I thank you for the work that you're going to proceed forward with. I can't wait to see that play out. We know that it's already happening, and a classic example was at Henderson Middle School this year, where two churches from opposite ends of our city, Mount Zion Baptist, Calvary Baptist, one on the south end, one on the north end, men coming together to say they wanted to go support Henderson young men that are sixth graders. And the impact that they had in a short span of time, again, invaluable, not easy to measure, but we know it will have a lifetime of providing a level of support for these young people. Thank you again. I appreciate everyone that's in attendance tonight, and I look forward to our future work. And I will say God bless to every one of you.
Well, thank you so much, Superintendent Poore. We are excited to see how God is going to expand this initiative coming up.
Yes, and as Superintendent Poore began to elaborate on some of those great examples, those inspirational things that have happened, tell us a little more about those three primary components that you've identified for Vital Families in Schools.
Sure. So this initiative seeks to mobilize church-school partnerships in three areas: family support opportunities, student mentorship, and family-to-family connections. We know that reaching out to the student is not all that needs to be done. Also, building up the family and coming alongside them in significant ways. That's what brings true life change. And so we're going to take a deeper look at each of those three elements. The first is family support opportunities. In partnerships with schools, churches are going to have the opportunity and always have the opportunity to meet some of those tangible needs, like food, supplies, and just needs as they arise. This helps to alleviate some of the stress that's on families, as well as some of the financial pressures. And so that's obviously good for families and kids. But also, churches can partner with schools to host some positive, safe events that will enrich students' lives and also be a help to the parents. We've got Tracy Hoke here that's going to share a little bit from Emmanuel Baptist Church about how her church partnered with the school and the various ways that they supported families.
Emmanuel is so excited that we get to partner with a local elementary school. We've been in partnership with them for over 15 years. It started when we moved to this location, and one of the things that we're most excited about is our kids club. And it started by just small groups wanting to support families in the summer, and we created one night a week where we went over and we had food and we played games and we were just present at the school. And that turned into a weekly kids club is what we call it. We meet every Tuesday night during the school year. And during the kids club, we met a family that we began to have a relationship with. The children joined in, then the parents became involved, and the family is named the Hernandez, and they had to go to court for immigration issues. And when they had to get references, 3 out of the 4 references came from our families from our church who had built relationships with them, who had encouraged them, who came alongside and helped them. And we have many families like that we have built relationships with just starting out by going over and being present. So that's a way to support families. Another way we support families is through backpacks. Well, they're really just bags, but it's weekend bags that we put food in for children who the counselor at the school has identified as children who might need food during the weekend. And so she tells us how many each week, and we send 20 bags, 25 bags over there of food that kids can eat on their own. They can take it home on Friday and keep it in their room, and it's food they can have over the weekend, and that's another way we support the families. Christmas time was a great opportunity for us. Again, the counselor identified some families who she felt needed some help over the holidays, and we were able to serve over 50 kids, 22 families. We got a lot of great feedback over that. Some families who wrote us a note personally and just said, we were having a hard time. We didn't know how Christmas was going to happen, and our children had a great Christmas, and we appreciate what you've done. So there's just so many opportunities for you to support the families and just be creative and see what the principal needs at her school or his school, and I'm excited that we have the opportunity to do that.
Well, thank you, Tracy, so much. It's really encouraging to hear what happens when a church shows up and is just ready to meet the needs of students and families. You know, another significant way that churches can transform students' lives is through mentoring. Churches are going to partner with the school. The school leadership will then identify students that can benefit from having a mentor. The churches will provide a mentor that will serve either virtually and or in person to really help with academic challenges and also just character development. They're also going to reach out and serve the family. And so, you know, there's really incredible life change that can happen when you take a holistic approach in mentoring students. Now, as far as our part, City Church Network, it's going to be so important for us to provide best practice models of mentoring for elementary, middle school, and high school, and also serve as a liaison and coach between the church and the school, working through issues that may arise, but also just serving as a resource. Most importantly, connecting churches. So maybe there'll be a large church that may connect with a couple smaller churches to really meet the mentoring needs of a given school. We'll also be looking for opportunities to connect all the churches in the community to share ideas, best practice, and resources as we meet the needs of student and families. I have to say, Travis Harris has been a blessing on our planning team. He has been blessed by being mentored himself, and so feels very strongly about seeing mentorships expand through church-school partnerships. So we're going to hear from him this evening. Good evening, Travis.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story and my thoughts on mentoring. Growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, in the time that I grew up in the mid-90s, early 90s, mid-90s, from my perspective in my environment, there wasn't a lot of hope. I mean, there was a full documentary on the environment that I come from called Gang Banging in Little Rock that was put on HBO. So myself and my peers, we didn't have a lot of positive things to look up to. It wasn't until I became involved in mentors that were looking for people like me to enrich and to empower people, young people like myself at the time. It's one of the reasons why I feel like I'm the best father that I could possibly be and the best husband that I could possibly be. It's one of the reasons why I feel like it's my responsibility to be the mentor that I can be for our youth today. So I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. Our churches are very, very, very important in this role. And I hope and I pray that our churches become more involved in the youth in our communities today. It's the church that I attend now today that has put me in a position to do that exact same thing. Becoming a youth minister was something that was never on my radar. But I stepped into a church building and someone saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself. And it today, 5 or 6 years later, has led me to be able to touch so many different lives that I'm proud of. And I give all glory to God for that. So this mentoring thing is something that I feel like it's the church's responsibility to be involved in our youth lives, because they are our future. It's very important that we make it a priority. Our kids are our future. So our churches have to be involved and we have to show them the way. And I pray that more churches will do just that. Thank you for your time. Back to Mary Carol.
Thanks so much, Travis, just for sharing your perspective on this and your hard work on this front. Your story is really inspirational, just as you have taken what you've received and are giving back and investing in so many lives in the community. A third key element of the church school partnerships are going to be family to family connections. This is where families will be able to interact and support one another. This can be done through monthly dinners or other monthly events where a church family and a student's family will be matched together for just casual conversation, connection, and mutual learning. And so it's just really been incredible to think about if we had hundreds and hundreds of family to family connections, what could happen in our community. We're going to get a glimpse of that type of connection that happened through a church school partnership through Laura and Scott and their connection with Amber.
Families can volunteer in the family connection piece. One dinner once a month, and you're sitting down to dinner with another family and engaging in conversation and just getting to know them and build a relationship.
I just remember the night that we actually came down to Franklin, and it was time for us to meet, the family that we were going to be with. And we walked into the gymnasium, and people were directing us to the tables, and we actually came in, I think, a little bit late that night. And I remember looking over, and all of a sudden I saw Amber. And I'm looking, I'm going, Laura, I know her. And we're just going, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. We're at the same table.
I know him. He comes to the job all the time. So I've been knowing him for about 3 or 4 years. Comes in, get the same thing every Monday. Every Monday.
Right. So it's a great thing to do as a family too.
Yeah, and somebody actually prepares discussion questions.
Yeah.
Do activities.
Well, I mean, as you know, I mean, we still got the picture that we made at Christmas time. We got that sitting right on our mantelpiece.
Sits on the side of my bed.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little easier to open up to people.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, the richness of the relationship is beyond anything that I could have even imagined. It's easy to have a relationship with somebody in a restaurant. In a workplace environment. We really didn't know each other.
No, we didn't.
Until you actually start to get into a person's life, start to hear their story, interact with their children. I mean, that's where it really becomes the full story. It just gets me aware of what else is happening beyond my own world. It's so easy for me to get
lost in it.
Yeah, get lost in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And being involved in this family connection helps me to be able to get outside of my world and see what God's doing and actually be part of what God's doing out there. And it's just, I mean, we're the ones that are blessed through it. There's no doubt about that.
I love that. Oh, I love that.
That's so encouraging, and it's inspiring to see these examples and imagine them multiplied out through what we can accomplish with this effort. And so especially at a time like this, when our schools are facing some unprecedented challenges, we want to be able to come alongside them and see those stories begin to unfold and multiply this year of all years. What a great time for that. And so to talk about this more, I'm going to invite in Principal Cynthia Collins. Cynthia is the principal at Meadow Cliff Elementary School. And so she's preparing for the launch of the school year right now. So we're so thankful to have her with us. She was also the principal at Franklin Elementary during a time when they had a program called Passport to Success. And under her leadership, students made dramatic improvements and achieved their school improvement goals. So Cynthia, thank you so much and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to talk with you about passports and how it impacted the lives of our students at Franklin.
Yes, I'm excited. So would you just share with us for a moment what you've personally seen regarding the impact that can be made on students and families through bringing these partnerships together?
Well, improving our communities is important to all of us. And one of the ways that we do that is improving the lives of families. And when we improve the lives of families, we have to do that for both the adults and the children. And so that family to family connection that existed in passports did just that. It brought together families, and it was not about, families never felt that it was about fixing them. that people were coming in to fix them. And I think that is so huge. It was really about families coming in and meeting and building relationships. And so there was just never anything that was about parents feeling they had their backs up against the wall. It was really about getting to know each other. So it was about families coming in and say, let's get to know each other. Let's find out about each other. There were a couple of things that they did. It was like one evening they had games. They had game night. And so they came and the families played games together. Then each family had the opportunity to take the game home with them. And the next month they came back, they shared how their game experiences went. And so they talked, they built the relationships first. And that was huge. And they broke boundaries, I think, and they learned new things about each other and their lives. And so you see people differently when those kinds of things happen.
For sure. So why do you think it's going to be important to expand those types of church school partnerships in our community?
I think that without churches and people being involved in the schools, I think it's impossible to improve the lives of families. I think it's just a necessary connection that churches become involved in that and do what they can. Those interactions carry out all throughout the community, those interactions that churches have in improving the lives of our students.
And could you speak just to why Vital Families? Oh, go ahead.
Now, I want to just say one little story that I think about now, and it just makes me smile. And it was there was an event we had at the school, and these families had been meeting and they had these relationships. But one of the Franklin students, they were out there and they were waiting, and then they saw their family park their car, and they were like, "My family's here, my family's here." And so they had really made this connection. She felt like that, that was her family. They had developed such a close relationship. And so it was about this continuous, it wasn't like a one-time shot or a one-time deal, which made it so powerful. It was about over time it was done. And so that was the huge part.
So critical. Long-term commitment is important, for the churches and for those families. So as we are in the midst of the COVID pandemic, it's a unique time. I know it's been a real challenge for schools. And so I wondered if, and families, if you could just speak a little bit as to why Vital Families in Schools, those partnerships could be even more important in the midst of the COVID environment.
Well, I think developing those relationships, everyone has kind of gone to their own corner now. And so people aren't interacting as much. And this has brought about so many needs that families have going through this, and needs that we don't know about, and that needs that by getting to know someone, people can know how to support that and how to help families build on the struggles they're having going through this. Because I think there are many, and that children are experiencing this. And if we don't begin to get back together in some way, whether it's, digitally or physically, I think that kids' lives will not be what they could be.
Certainly. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us tonight, letting us ask you a few questions. And our heart goes out for you this week and next week. We are just here for you and so supportive and just thankful for your great work in Little Rock and for our children. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. We appreciate your interest in the Little Rock School District and helping our students. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And so we're going to bring back Ray Williams. And just to hear from him for a moment, I just want to get your reaction to just what we just heard from Principal Collins and the things that Mary Carroll shared.
Well, every time I hear these stories, they inspire me. And it just makes me think that if we could see this happen with hundreds of families and a school partnership at every school in Central Arkansas, we can see our community changed for good. It gives me hope.
Definitely. And we're so blessed to have leaders that want to engage like we have. We have some very significant open doors that we want to take advantage of right now in this critical time. So we're going to transition now into the segment for question and answer. So this will be your last chance to get your question into the chat, and we'll get to as many of them as we can, or we'll try to follow up with you if we can't answer it right now. But question number one comes from Jeff, who says, how would a church decide which school to partner with and to get connected with, to develop that kind of partnership?
Well, that's a great question, Jeff. Thank you. We talked about relationships tonight. You've heard that again and again. So my recommendation would be that a church who wanted to partner to just ask the question simply at first, where do we have existing relationships with members of our church? And then follow those and see if that could lead to church-school partnership. If they're not natural existing relationships, then Mary Carol and her team contact them. They would be happy to help match a church with the school where there was need, and we're in contact with the schools where some of the most pressing needs are. So we'd love to help a church connect in that way. And I just want to say, regardless of what size your church is, what your church background, there's a way for every church to be involved and to make a contribution, and we'd love to help you do that.
Yes, definitely. Another question, this time from Matt. He says, with all of the challenges that we have been talking about this evening, what makes a church-based solution so effective and the focus of our strategy?
Well, thanks, Matt. Another great question. Well, I think I would say first that anything that any group in the city is doing to help schools and children and families, we would applaud. But the reason we think there's something unique about a church-based approach is that when churches and schools partner together, that's the best way to help families. And because of the vital role that families play, we just think if the church is the family of families, will come and come alongside those families who need extra help, that's going to be the best way to help our children.
Yeah, and it's so important to have something like City Church Network, an organization that is waking up every day with the goal of bringing churches and leaders together for the well-being of the community. So Ray, would you please just spend a few minutes sharing with our viewers where City Church Network is headed, our vision moving forward, and how we can all partner together to impact Little Rock and Central Arkansas?
Well, in Isaiah 65, 17 through 25, we're provided with a picture of the characteristics of the New Jerusalem, the flourishing city that Jesus will establish when he returns. And we're called as God's people to provide glimpses of that future reality right now. And one of the characteristics of that city is that it will be a place where children are not born for calamity. So through the Vital Families Initiative, we imagine a community where families and churches and schools are working together for the well-being of our children. And through growing church-school partnerships, families are being strengthened and every student is reading at grade level. There's a dramatic increase in high school graduation rates, transforming our workforce and the economic well-being of our community. Racial disparities in our schools and criminal justice system are disappearing. I know it's a big dream, but we believe it's possible through God's grace and power, working through the united efforts of churches and schools working together. The initiative this year has a first-year goal to establish 25 vital families in school, church-school partnerships. And together, these partnerships will provide an estimated 125 to 200 mentors and family connection opportunities for 75 to 100 families. And we have a clear strategy built on best practices and proven models. God has provided us with a great leadership team. You've met some of them tonight. And this team is prepared to communicate vision, to build relationships, new relationships with existing leaders, They will provide ongoing communication, coordination, coaching, and support, as well as measurable outcomes to sustain and fuel future growth. And we've launched the initiative, and we're prepared to go to the next level, but we need help. So in order to fully resource the initiative, we're seeking to raise $100,000. Our churches partnering together with schools can change the future well-being of hundreds of children and their families for the good of our city and the glory of God. But it's only possible with the help of partners like you. I want to introduce you to a couple who is all in. Mike and Ann Lewis have invested their time in financial resources in church school partnerships for more than 15 years. And they wanted to share their thoughts on why they support City Church Network.
Thank you, Ray. Yes, Ann and I became really familiar with the City Church Network through a ministry that was initiated by City Church Network. And the ministry that we were associated with, it was in the educational area. And it dealt a lot with mentoring, but I think that more important was that it was a collaboration of many churches coming together and embracing the need for supporting our educational services to our children, here in the state of Arkansas. And, we love our state, and we just see how God has blessed us in many ways, but there are some areas that he's calling us to step up as a community to make impact in our communities. So City Church Network is really dialed into those opportunities.
Yes, even more impactful was the inclusion of the students' families and our communities assisting in the educational process. It was
Supported through the City Church Network. That support came through really alignment and that collaboration that I spoke of amongst all of the churches in providing resources, but embracing the children's families as families. And we had a lot of activities that centered on the families and the children, and incorporated that all within the learning environment for them. And we saw big impacts, and it was very profound, but it was just a demonstration really to our community of the impact that we can make as a collection of churches, a network of churches. We're all in as it relates to City Church Network. It's the vision that they have for our communities, addressing the many different parts of our communities, but in terms of the need and incorporating the foundation of collaboration and churches working in a united fashion to make impact is crucially important. But everything is anchored in prayer, and City Church Network is really about prayer and praying together as a community. So we're extremely grateful to have be associated with City Church Network, and we're excited about the vision that they have for the future. We're excited about how God continues to provision. So we just pray that that you pray and that you ultimately join us in this mission.
Mike and Ann, thank you. They've not only invested in one church school partnership, but have given sacrificially to see the vision multiplied in schools all over our state. And I really am grateful. Now I want to invite Dee Brown, my friend and City Church Network board chair, to join us. He is the founder of Brown Engineers, and he and his family have served as a connection family in our schools. Dee, what are some specific ways someone can engage financially to invest in this initiative?
Well, thank you, Ray. It's great to be here tonight. When I think about what my wife and 3 daughters did when we were meeting each month with our local school family, we quickly learned the power of families connecting together over a meal. And we especially noted and learned from each other that we all want the very best for our kids. And we know that this is an area that really does make a difference. You know, today you've heard the stories of changed lives and the impact that the Vital Families Initiative has had and will continue to have on our city. And whatever choices you've made for this school year, we're proud of you. But imagine with me for a moment even greater impact in our city with 25 school church partnerships investing in Vital Family Connections. But this partnership depends on all of us, and that's what collective impact is all about. With your partnership, the City Church Network has a team in place to train volunteers and mentors to engage across Central Arkansas. The team has opened a path with the school superintendent and with the mayor and the governor. You know, many times we sit back, we may feel defeated, like there's really not much I can do. After all, I'm only one person. But this is a way to really engage with people and invest in our city. Little Rock will be a better place with Vital Families connecting over meals and conversations together. We know the results are proven. They improve reading levels. It improves test scores. And the impact of relationships are improved. We're all in this together. We believe the number one thing we can all do to engage in making Little Rock a flourishing city is to join the Vital Family Initiative of the City Church Network. And we can do this by either serving in person or supporting our team financially, but we can't do it alone. So today we want to talk to you about becoming a financial partner with the City Church Network. And we specifically want to invite you to participate at one of these levels. The first one is the cost to underwrite a single campus for the Vital Families Initiative is $4,000 per campus. And that's the cost to establish, to train, and provide ongoing coordination and coaching support for a school-church partnership. And I realize many of you cannot consider this level of contribution. However, there are some listening to this virtual event who do have this capacity. So please consider a gift that could underwrite an entire campus. But a second way would be the cost to get a campus launched with mentor training for $750. Having a local director who is trained with resources to start that program is very important. And there are some who can help us get started, and then while others will come alongside of you to help build out the remaining funding. There's yet another way. So the cost to underwrite the support of one family is $40 per month. And almost all of us can take on at least one family or perhaps even multiple families. But remember, we can all do something. If you can't see yourself in one of those funding opportunities, please make your best gift possible right now. You know, if every person listening to this event tonight could give something, then together we will have significant impact. And we know that every penny counts. So we want to ask you to give right now and go to the website at citychurchar.org/breakthrough. It's on your screen. And there's an urgent need to get this initiative fully funded and launched as school is starting now. And we want to express our heartfelt thanks to those of you who may already be giving. We also want to thank those of you who are considering giving for the very first time and want to become a partner with City Church Network. You know, with the virus and the violence that seems to capture so much of our attention right now, this is an urgent time to provide our students with life-giving and vital family connections. Back to Logan.
Thank you so much, Dee. Thank you for encouraging us, even in this time of great difficulty and trial, challenging us to be involved in being part of the solution, and for your leadership with City Church Network and in the community. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
So what a great night. It's always so inspiring to me to get a glimpse of what can happen when our churches and leaders work together, the kind of synergy that develops. So with your help, Little Rock can be a shining example of that impact that can inspire other cities, both in Arkansas and hopefully across the nation. So as we prepare to wrap up this evening, I want to thank each of you for joining us here tonight for this virtual event. We're going to have a giving link on the screen for the next few moments. And with your help, we can make this difference, be part of the solution for our schools and for many families during this unprecedented school year. So we'll leave you tonight with an inspirational music video that was written and produced by two churches in Central Arkansas that serves as a great reminder that God is the maker of waves, and how with your help, we hope to make waves of our own in bringing churches and schools together and supporting students and families. So have a great evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Good night.
Started getting cloudy on the Sea of Galilee. The fog was rolling in, no land could be seen, and a boat full of sailors began to be afraid. But Jesus was asleep, sees the maker of the waves. When they went to wake the master, he said, "You have little faith." They said, "Why are you not worried? And how will we be saved?" Raised his hands and he looked up to the sky. He said, "Peace be still," and the storm began to die. In the middle of the storm, we know that you are with us. In the middle of the storm, we don't have to be afraid. In the middle of the storm, we know you will deliver us. Give us faith to know you're the maker of the way. Storm that's raging, don't give way to fear. Don't give way to fear. For the Master, He is with you, and He promised to be near. So